Yeah, this is good. So, coming back to this, any questions from your side first before I open the floor? Yeah. Can you just introduce your name, because you're going to be documented.
I'll just speak out loud.
Yeah.
I'm Sumit Lagar. I'm founder at Create, the product that Rajen was presenting. I just had some comments about collaborations and partnerships. It definitely makes a lot of sense to not work in silo, but work collaboratively. And being in the field for not too long, about 2-3 years, we have found it harder to interface with other people working as well. Apart from platforms such as these, it's harder to connect and find out. So that's sort of one big point that we should take up. And now, since we are migrating on the marketing side of products, so we had our own sort of task at that as well. So our product came out really good. Users really liked it. The whole feedback was really encouraging and stuff. But we realized there's a big gap between what is accessible as products, not as features. So what I mean is like other famous products, say like Google Talkback and stuff, which are widely available. Users are used to using it for such a long time. All these organizations, they provide training and stuff for these kind of products, which are not sponsored by Google but by the organizations themselves. So they are enhancing the experience of the product by providing expert trainings and help centers and stuff. And we realize that even if we have a good product, it's harder to set up that training network. As a small organization, our expertise is really product development, not setting up training networks or distribution networks. Distribution in case of software is easier on the Google platform and stuff, but training is a big leap that is required even for the most intuitive products. And I'm sure SmartKey might be finding that as well. So there's in the collaboration part, what I want is probably a platform that allows us to train users.
Yeah, I think that's a very. No, I want a pen, please. That's a very, very good point, actually, and I think we missed out on that one. The training component, yes, and you're very right about the cane does require training, and there are people who still don't. I have Sarmishta on my right, who has rejected the product, so why should she not use the cane? Let's hear it from her herself, because that's give us an insight into why. Can somebody give a mic? Or just can you just tell us about why you not use the cane?
Yeah, exactly. That's the correct point. Like, we really need training. We also, when we see a new technology, we are scared to use to switch over from the old one, because we're so. I mean, the other one sounds very reliable, although the newer one must be most reliable than the other one. But of course, the trust issues there because we have no training. And secondly, why I don't use the smart cane is because yes, it's a lack of practice, and secondly, it's cumbersome for me. I can't. I mean, it's a heavy stuff for me. We need to make it a little more lighter. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to comment? Yes, Professor Ramakrishnan. Can you give the mic to him? Take that mic.
Talking about connecting, I think one of the important things that this Manthan organization or organizations like yours can do is, see, like there are so many really innovative products here, and there are so many people who could potentially benefit from their outside. Like in our own experience of OCR, we had to work very hard to even convince an NGO organization that this is really good and it's useful, because they have experienced so many times with false promises, and they don't easily trust that an education institution will ever deliver something that will work practically. So, these kind of things where you're convinced and they are useful, if you can create this thing so that the users are linked to the people who are innovators and users, I think it will make a huge difference to people actually realizing the benefit of what we have done.
Yeah, Dr. Dinesh.
Thank you. From all the discussion that we've had, I've got 2 points to make and ask others' opinions on that. One is, it looks like we need an incubator specifically for assistive technologies, because everybody is working, as you say, in isolation. I've been advisor on one of the companies which has been developing the smartphone for visually challenged, and they couldn't get anywhere because of the funding problem. We approached Indian Angel Network, and everybody asked, how are we going to make money? So the investor, getting the investors on board, and all the things that an incubator can do, and I'm sure government can help in that to make that happen. So that's one. The other one, very relevant point you made about the training. I'm also involved in a school for the blind, and the management is abysmal. You know, the money which is given to them is used for all sorts of purposes other than for the children. We should have some kind of regulatory framework where these training centers as well as the schools, I mean, to give you one example, my father gave money to build one floor for the children to live in. And when I saw that, there were marks on the walls where children were hitting, you know, while walking, because they don't even have simple canes. Forget about smart cane. They have never been given or taught, and they were hitting the wall to turn. You know, this is the state of affairs. So if there can be some kind of regulatory body which can look into the management of all these schools, and then we can introduce things like training them on the assistive technologies early on, because early ages, that's the time when they learn these things, as you say, you know, Braille, and you don't want to change technologies frequently, as she has rightly pointed out. So these are the two suggestions that I would make, and I would very much like to be involved in your think tank, as we discussed before in the meeting.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Anybody else? Sumit, okay.
Just to quickly add on the point of incubator or more sort of entrepreneurial support to companies. I mean, social entrepreneurship is anyways big in the present age, outside India especially. In India, we have realized it's sort of a harder problem to crack, since we develop products and we structure ourselves as for profit, because you want to make a competitive product, not a retrofitted or just make-do product. And the realization of funding a for-profit social startup is not really great in the incubator or entrepreneurial circle in India. So if we can have some sort of platform where there's like a bunch of people doing the same thing with the same intention, then you can have bigger support from government or bigger organizations who can understand it more intricately.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that, and I think that is a very good suggestion to take on board, and somehow if we can get people together, because I know the other company I'm talking about, they were struggling. We can take the CSR regulation into account now that every company will have to put in, you know, is it 5% or 2% of 5 crore or more revenue? So if CSR can be siphoned towards these activities, it will be a great achievement.
I don't know about tax laws for these devices. The organization I interact in Chennai, they bought a braille printer for 7.5 lakhs from Canada. See, we can buy a nice digital printer for 10,000 rupees. I don't know why these things cost so much. I think organizations, if they can pressurize the government to make them tax-free or even subsidize, I think this will reach many more people. In Bangalore, for example, out of many NGOs, there is only one NGO which has a braille printer, and everybody sends there to get it done.
Yeah, Prashant.
So I just wanted to reiterate, in fact, both these points, the earlier point about, the for-profit I think it's kind of very, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs in different capacities, and it's very important to dovetail the even a social sector objective into a for-profit projection, as it were, or a model. Partly because it's very important to get on board an investor, not for the money, but for the guidance and the sustainability that he gives you. And if you look at, there are quite a few examples. There's so many examples of things which started with a goal which is, which is laudable and very much in the social. For example, you take Lenskart. You must have heard of Lenskart. So they started with the objective of making glasses affordable for, it seems about 3/4 of the people who needed glasses don't get them, and that's a significant cause of blindness, or it's one of the causes of blindness. So they started with that objective, but the whole thing after that was developed into a for-profit structured thing to come out with the cheapest but high-quality glasses possible. So glasses for 500 rupees online, and so there's this huge selection and all that. The point is, they got in investors, they got in funding, and a lot of that was structured in a way which was, for the investor, obviously he wants to realize his funding, but the investor brings in so much value beyond the money, because ultimately you want that project to be sustainable. I think that's a very significant factor, and that's why it's kind of really important to look at the sustainability. And even in the earlier session, if any of you were there, I kept asking, is there a revenue model, etc. So when somebody says, oh, this is a pro bono activity, that's a little worrying, because you're not looking at sustainability, you're looking at the committed start that somebody has put in out of passion, etc. But to make it sustainable, there's nothing to beat a self-sustaining model, and that's what can also draw in an investor.
Thank you. One second. First, Dr. Charu, and then we'll come to Sir.
Yeah, I've been hearing all this. I'm Dr. Charu, Associate Professor in E-Governance, and Rajan has led me a long way with regard to work. I work for rural communities and marginalized communities. I think the whole crux, as you said, is to make the model self-sustainable. And I was hearing that, and also the user end. I think it's not about the revenue model more, it's more about the design-related issues. While you design something, you have to always keep in mind the target group, which I'm sure you do. Innovation should not be spurred because it's a creative genius in your mind. Innovation should be spurred because there are needs and aspirations of people for that particular innovation. So the whole focus should turn from technology or financial model to actually the user itself. The moment you focus on the user and you understand their needs and aspirations, then probably it becomes self-sustaining. Probably revenue model gets attached to it automatically. And I also feel all this should go through a benchmark of quality checks, where not just while designing the user target group has been taken in consideration, but also while checking that, cross-checking it and releasing it to the market. All of us know we should start small and think big and go up higher. But while doing that, I don't know how many of us in that category need a smartphone. I was again thinking, because the moment you tell me about an innovation or a product, my first reaction is how much percentage consumption of that product. Consumption of the product is not defined by you wanted to give or you thought it's important, or how many of us here have a smartphone, but how many out there really need that. So I think it's really about rethinking the approach. Thank you.
Plays the role.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's always looking forward to create.
Can we have show of hands so that we respond in? Yeah.
So the marketer is interested, the marketing person of, I'll say, their own class is only interested to achieve what, just opposite to what you are saying.
That's how it doesn't work.
No, I think we have to
We will,
disagree with that. The point.
Of ethics and morality.
Yeah.
No, but
Because
then
you
if
have
you
made a
One second.
point.
Let's keep the discussion through the moderator here, because otherwise it becomes a cross talk and we'll also create a lot of noise. Sharmista is the next person to speak, and then Sumit, and then Dr. Dinesh. Thank you so much.
Continuing this point, if we can't presume that how many of us here are using technology, we can't presume that how many of their people are using technology, because I mean, presumption, if presuming that people are not using technology would curtail the innovation. And secondly, I was about the sustainability and regulatory process. I was just thinking, I don't know about other things, but for example, Samsung is coming up with technologies like smart covers, which with ultrasonic sensors to basically. Basically, it just tells you whether there's whether there's an object in front of you or not. I'm just saying that if Samsung is coming up with accessible technologies, why can't that accessible technology be part of their CSR? Why do they have to go for some other CSR? Why do they have to invest as their CSR in let's say education or rural development or traffic or somewhere else? And if they're producing technologies for persons with disability, why can't they take it as CSR and come up with cheaper things, or maybe for free applications?